In my dreams, a work in progress. Ideally, everyone in the world would acknowledge and honor humanity's three natural rights to life, freedom, and property. Ideally, there would be a designated, local, replaceable, authority to protect those rights and punish those who violate them. Ideally, this authority would be limited to defending just those three basic things, but otherwise, leave people alone. Ideally, there would be no income tax, tariffs, subsidies, public schools, bailouts, welfare, drug war, victimless crimes, or warfare, because such exploits necessarily violate the primary rights of life, freedom, and property. Free trade capitalism would be the ultimate touchstone, but socialist, religious and other experimental communities would be welcome so long as they were peaceful and entirely self-reliant. Frederick Bastiat wrote, "I do not dispute their right to invent social combinations, to advertise them, to advocate them, and to try them upon themselves, at their own expense and risk." End quote. Important environmental, land use, health, regulation and infrastructure needs could be resolved, adjudicated, and funded through a commensurate use tax and local citizen cooperatives/courts. Currency and banks would be competitive. No public debt or liability would be allowed to accrue. Ideally, nation-states would dissolve and humans would be free to peacefully mingle and travel wherever they chose, as is their natural right to freedom. However, things are far from ideal, and most of humanity is ruled by their own defective, often corrupt, nation-state. So, for the time being, we have to sadly accept our faulty rulers taking drastic, often inhumane, actions to prevent ourselves from being overrun and/or attacked by victims and/or aggressors of their own failed nation-state. Quoting H.L. Mencken. "The kind of man who wants the government to adopt and enforce his ideas is always the kind of man whose ideas are idiotic." H.L. Mencken. End quote. Yes, I believe Mencken's quote is true, but my ideas expressed above disavow the government's aka authorities' use of force to do anything except defend the three fundamental rights to life, freedom, and property. I think even Mencken might not disagree too vehemently with me, though I believe I hear him groaning. Thomas Hodgkin, c. 1832, wrote, "The natural right of property, far from being protected, is systematically violated, and both government and law seem to exist chiefly or solely, in order to protect and organize the most efficacious means of protecting the violation. The important and yet perhaps trite fact to which I wish by these remarks to direct your attention is, that law and governments are intended, and always have been intended, to establish and protect a right of property, different from that which, in common with Mr. Locke, I say is ordained by nature. The right of property created and protected by the law, is the artificial or legal right of property, as contradistinguished from the natural right of property. It may be the theory that government ought to protect the natural right. In practice, government seems to exist only to violate it." The end.
Fighting words. No president or elected official will ever represent me, personally. Outwardly, I will conform, but my conscience will never concede to unlawful or immoral state authority or majority rule.